What if I told you that the biggest threat to humanity isn't melting ice caps or rising sea levels? What if it's hiding in your pocket, disguised as infinite scrolling and dopamine hits? In the next 20 minutes, you'll discover how the very platforms we use to connect and share have become breeding grounds for genocide, organised misogyny, and the silent force eroding our ability to confront any challenge, including climate change itself. Strap in, because by the end of this talk, you'll never tap like the same way again. Every social media platform, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, or YouTube, promises something positive. They say they're here to help people connect, make friends, build communities, share ideas, and even bring hope. On the surface, this might seem true. We can talk to loved ones across the world, find others with similar interests, and even join movements that matter to us. But if you look more closely, the way these platforms really work tells a different story. Behind the friendly interface and bright colours are complex systems known as algorithms that control almost everything you see. These algorithms are not neutral. They are specifically designed to keep you on the platform for as long as possible, because that's how companies make money. These algorithms track everything you do. They watch what videos you click on, which posts you like, what you share, and even how long you stop to read or to watch something. Based on that, they figure out what kind of content you're most likely to react to. Then, they start showing you more and more of that kind of content, except it just becomes more extreme, more emotional, and more dramatic each time. This isn't just a helpful feature that gives you what you want. It's a system designed to trigger strong emotions, especially outrage, fear, and anger, because these are the emotions that make people stay online the longest, and the longer you stare, the more advertisements you see. That's where the money comes from. Your attention is the product being sold. Over time, this kind of content can become to shape how we see the world. It can make us believe that things are worse than they really are, or that we're surrounded by people who think differently and somehow dangerous. It creates echo chambers, where we only hear the voices that agree with us, and where disagreement is seen as a threat. The result? More division, more distrust, more people feeling isolated, angry, or afraid, and in some cases, people are being pulled into conspiracy theories or radical ideas without even realising it. Communities can become polarised, family members may stop speaking to each other, real-world violence can even follow. This system isn't just a side effect of modern technology, it's built into the design of these platforms. Outrage and fear are profitable, calm, balanced content is not. The companies behind social media know this, and yet they rarely take steps to fix it. So while social media may promise connection and community, what it often delivers is the opposite: confusion, conflict, and harm. The real cost of these platforms isn't measured in clicks, likes, or ad revenue. It's measured in broken relationships, damaged democracies, and a society that's slowly being pulled apart. In 2017, something deeply tragic unfolded in Myanmar, and social media, especially Facebook, played a major role in it. Facebook wasn't just a place where people shared news or family photos. It became one of the main tools used to spread hate, lies, and dangerous information that helped fuel a genocide. The target was in Rohingya, a Muslim minority community living in Myanmar. For years, they had faced discrimination and were often denied citizenship, basic rights, and protection. But what happened in 2017 took that to a horrifying new level. On Facebook, coordinated groups, some linked to the military and government, began spreading false and hateful information about Rohingya. These posts didn't just express opinions, they painted the entire population as dangerous, dirty, violent, or even subhuman. Lies were shared across public pages, private groups, and news feeds at an enormous scale. What made it worse was that Facebook's algorithm helped spread this content faster. It didn't care whether something was true or false, it simply showed people what they were most likely to react to. And content filled with fear, anger, and hate gets a lot of reactions, clicks, comments, and shares. That's what the algorithm was built to chase: engagement, not truth. Despite many warnings from human rights groups, journalists, and even Facebook's own internal staff, little was done to stop the spread of this hate. Posts encouraging violence and murder were often left up. Fake stories about Rohingya people attacking others went unchecked. There was almost no content moderation in the local language. In fact, at the time, Facebook didn't even nearly have enough Burmese-speaking staff to even understand what was being said. As a result, the lies and hate spread like wildfire. People believed what they read, and within weeks, these online messages turned into real-world action. Armed mobs formed, villages were burnt, people were attacked, forced to flee or killed. Over 700,000 Rohingya were driven from their homes, thousands died, and many survivors ended up in refugee camps across the border in Bangladesh, still afraid to return. This wasn't just a case of a few bad actors using a platform in the wrong way. It wasn't a one-off mistake or a system that just got overwhelmed. This was the direct result of how the platform was built. Facebook's entire design encourages the spread of emotional, diverse content, because that content keeps people scrolling. The more people engage, the more ads they see, and that means more profit for the company. In this case, the cost of that system was devastating. Real lives were lost, an entire community was traumatised and displaced, and all of it was made worse, faster and more dangerous because of a platform that chose profit and engagement over responsibility, truth, and human dignity. The genocide of Rohingya is a powerful and painful example of what can happen when social media platforms are left unchecked. It shows us that these aren't just websites or apps, they're tools that can shape beliefs, fuel violence, and change the course of history, for better or tragically for worse. Across many social media platforms, a disturbing pattern has taken hold, especially comes to how women are treated online. While the internet was once seen as a space where anyone could speak freely, share their ideas and find their community, that promise has not been kept equally. For many women, particularly those who are visible, outspoken, or in public roles, social media has become a hostile, even dangerous place. Journalists, activists, academics, and politicians who are women often find themselves the targets of relentless and coordinated harassment campaigns. These attacks aren't random or occasional. They are often well organised, aimed at silencing, intimidating, and driving women out of public conversations. This abuse takes many forms. In some cases, harassers will dox women, sharing their private information, like home addresses, phone numbers, or family details, putting them and their loved ones at risk. In other cases, trolls will launch viral smear campaigns, deliberating, spreading lies, edited images, or false accusations to damage reputations. Comment sections and inboxes become flooded with sexual threats, violent language, and hateful insults, often repeated over and over in waves of online attacks. These attacks don't happen in isolation. The platforms themselves often make things worse. Their algorithms tend to reward controversy, emotional reactions, and anything that draws more engagement, whether it's positive or negative. So when harassment campaigns start gaining traction, they often get amplified by the platform itself, pushed into more people's feeds and allowed to grow. The result of all of this is deeply harmful. Many talented, thoughtful, and experienced women are pushed offline. Some leave social media entirely, choosing safety and peace over continuing to speak out. Others self-censor, avoiding certain topics or refusing to engage altogether. Knowing the backlash isn't worth it, what we lose in that process is enormous. We lose diverse voices, fresh ideas, and the full range of human experience that helps societies grow and evolve. But the harm doesn't stop with individuals, it sends a wider message, especially to young girls, marginalised women, or anyone who doesn't fit into traditional power structures. Your voice isn't safe here, your opinion isn't welcome. This has a chilling effect. It discourages participation, it limits who feels free to speak, and it enforces the same old systems of power and control that have kept women quiet for so long. Social media companies often claim they're neutral platforms, or that they can't control what users post, but by designing systems that reward attention at all costs, even when that attention comes from abuse, they have become active participants in the problem. In effect, these platforms have turned into tools of digital patriarchy, powerful systems that, whether intentionally or not, help reproduce old injustices in a new, high-tech form. If we want the internet to be a place where everyone can participate equally, where ideas are judged on their merit, not the gender or identity of the person sharing them, then this has to change right now. The way things are designed is pushing countless voices out of the room, and we all lose because of it. Over the past decade, a massive shift has taken in how journalism is funded and consumed. As advertising money has moved away from traditional newspapers and broadcasters and into the hands of tech giants like Google, Facebook and YouTube, legacy media outlets are beginning to collapse. These companies have relied on ad revenue to pay for quality journalism, reporters, editors, photographers, fact-checkers, and all the behind-the-scenes staff it takes to investigate and report the news properly. But when those ad dollars disappear, many of these media organisations were left struggling to survive and budgets were slashed. Entire investigative teams were laid off. Local newspapers, many of which were vital to holding government, police and businesses accountable, shut down completely, and as a result, the kind of journalism that takes time and resources, in-depth reporting on environmental issues, political corruption, social injustice or human rights violations, has become rarer and harder to find. At the same time, the internet and smartphones made it easier than ever for anyone to claim the role of a journalist. This can be empowering when used responsibly, but it also opens a door for abuse. Bad actors, trolls, and even automated bots can now spread false stories at lightning speed. Many of these posts are designed to provoke outrage or confusion, not to inform. They often appear with bold headlines, emotional language, or out-of-context quotes, mimicking the look and tone of real news, what we call clickbait. As these kind of posts flood our social media feeds, the line between real news and fake news becomes harder to see. Sensationalism gets rewarded by algorithms that push the most viral content, not the most accurate. Meanwhile, trusted institutions like public broadcasters, scientific journals, and mainstream newspapers are increasingly accused of bias, incompetence, or dishonesty. Even well-respected experts, such as scientists, doctors, and journalists, can be dismissed with a single word: fake. This environment creates a deep sense of confusion and mistrust. Ordinary people are left wondering who to believe. Different groups live in completely different realities, each with their own facts and news source, and civil conversations become harder. Building agreement on even basic facts like climate change, public health, or democratic rights becomes almost impossible, and this confusion isn't just inconvenient, it's dangerous. Without a shared understanding of what's true and what's false, society can't function. We can't make smart policy decisions, we can't vote responsibly, we can't respond to major crises like pandemics, environmental disasters, or economic inequality, because we can't even agree on what the problems are. A health democracy needs a strong, reliable news ecosystem. That means funding real journalism, protecting press freedom, and teaching people how to recognise credible information. When that ecosystem breaks down, what fills the gap is often manipulation, division, and chaos. In the race for clicks and profits, too many tech platforms and media outlets have sacrificed truth for attention. But if we care about the future of our societies, about justice, equality, and survival, we can't afford to lose our grip on reality. Most people think that the content they see online, on social media, video platforms, or search engines, is simply based on their preferences. It feels like the platform is showing you what you like, but the reality is much more complicated. Algorithms, which are the automated systems that decide what shows up in your feed, aren't just trying to make you happy, they're trying to keep you engaged for as long as possible. These algorithms are designed to maximize your attention. They learn not just what you enjoy, but what keeps you scrolling, clicking, reacting, and coming back. That often means showing you content that is emotional, controversial, or even provocative, because these types of content get the most response. Over time, this creates what many people call echo chambers or filter bubbles. You start seeing more and more posts, videos, and opinions that match your existing beliefs. People who think differently from you gradually disappear from your online world. The result is that you begin to feel like everyone agrees with you, and that those who don't must be misinformed, dangerous, or simply wrong. This doesn't just affect individuals, it changes how society functions. In these digital bubbles, complex issues get reduced to black and white thinking. Subtle, thoughtful debate is replaced by loud arguments, straw-man versions of opposing views, and oversimplified narratives. People on opposite sides stop listening to each other. They stop seeing each other as reasonable human beings and instead as enemies. As these divisions deepen, social trust begins to fall apart. Neighbours, co-workers, and even family members can no longer talk about important topics without arguments or silence. Communities that once worked together now struggle to find shared understanding. Politics become polarised. Compromise, once the foundation of democracy, becomes almost impossible. And the consequences aren't just political, they're global. Take climate change, for example. It's one of the biggest challenges humanity faces. Solving it requires coordinated action, long-term thinking, and collective sacrifice. But when people are living in personalised realities fed different versions of the truth, how can we agree on what needs to be done? One person sees urgent science, another sees hawks. One sees global cooperation, another sees a threat to their freedom. Without a shared sense of reality, there can be no shared solution. This is the hidden cost of algorithm-driven platforms. By shaping what each of us sees, they shape what we think is real. And when we can't agree on what's real, we lose the ability to act together, to solve problems, make peace, or plan for the future. If we want a healthier, more united society, we need to rebuild the systems that help people understand one another. That means more transparent algorithms, stronger support for accurate information, and digital spaces that prioritise connection over conflict. Because if we stay trapped in these personalised bubbles, the divisions between us will only grow, and the problems we all share remain unsolved. Constant exposure to outrage-filled content on social media isn't just damaging to our public discourse, it's also deeply harmful for our mental health. These platforms are built to keep us engaged, and they often do so by showing us content that stirs up anger, fear, jealousy, or anxiety. Over time, this creates a constant emotional rollercoaster that many people find difficult to step away from. The result? A slow but steady toll on mental well-being. Studies have shown a clear link between heavy social media use and increased risks of anxiety, depression, and loneliness. People who spend a lot of time on these platforms often report feeling worse about themselves, more disconnected from others, and more overwhelmed by the state of the world. The platforms are designed to be addictive. The more time we spend scrolling, the more money they make, regardless of how it makes us feel. Young people are especially vulnerable. For many teenagers and young adults, social media isn't just a way to keep in touch, it's where their identities are shaped. Their sense of self-worth often becomes closely tied to likes, follows, comments, and shares. But when those numbers are high, they might feel good for a moment, but when they drop, or when someone else seems to be doing better, it can trigger deep feelings of inadequacy or rejection. What makes it worse is that what they're comparing themselves to is often a distorted version of reality. Social media feeds are carefully curated highlight reels. People post their best photos, happiest moments, and most flattering angles. Rarely do they share their struggles, their doubts, or their failures. But when you're scrolling through feed after feed of perfect-looking lives, it's easy to feel like you're not measuring up, even when those images are heavily edited or filtered. On top of all of this is the problem of online harassment. From cruel comments and bullying to threats and targeted abuse, many users, especially girls, marginalised groups, and those who speak out, experience harassment that further erodes their mental health. It's not just hurtful, it can be traumatising, creating long-term emotional damage and fear of speaking publicly. All of this adds up to a growing mental health crisis, particularly among younger generations. More people than ever have reported feeling isolated, hopeless, or burnt out. Many struggle with sleep, self-esteem, and emotional resilience. And while some of these issues existed before social media, the scale and intensity have increased dramatically. This crisis doesn't just hurt individuals, it affects society as a whole. When people are mentally exhausted, constantly anxious, or emotionally drained, it's much harder to focus on the biggest issues that affect us all. Whether it's climate change, inequality, democracy, or public health, these long-term challenges require collective energy, clarity, and resilience. but when that energy is being sapped from platforms that profit from distraction and distress. To move forward, we need to rethink the systems we've built. Social media doesn't have to be harmful, but right now it's a business model that thrives on emotional manipulation and shallow validation. If we want a healthier, more compassionate world, we must demand platforms that prioritise well-being over engagement and teach younger generations that their worth isn't measured in algorithms or approval from strangers, because in the end, how we feel about ourselves, each other and the world shapes what we're capable of doing together. The way the platform is designed encourages people to post extreme or shocking content because that's the kind of content that gets most attention and reactions from users. When posts are very surprising, upsetting or angry, they get more likes, comments and shares. Because of this, those creating content, whether they are everyday people or those with harmful intentions, begin to use stronger language, exaggerate or twist facts, and spread fear to get even more reactions. Each time someone shares or retweets this kind of content, the platform's algorithm, which decides what to show users, takes this as a sign that the content is popular and important, so it shows it to even more people. As a result, ideas that were once considered unusual or extreme, such as conspiracy theories that only a few people believed, start to spread widely and become more accepted by the general public. People who hold extreme political or ideological views start to find other more easily and form groups or communities online. Unfortunately, this growing connection among radicals can sometimes lead to acts of violence in the real world, as these ideas motivate harmful behaviour. This process happens very quickly compared to other serious problems like climate change, which develops gradually over many years and can be tracked and predicted. These harmful feedback loops on social media can erupt suddenly, spreading dangerous ideas and behaviours overnight. This rapid spread can catch entire societies unprepared, making it harder to respond effectively to the growing threat. Make no mistake, climate change is one of the greatest threats facing humanity today. It is an existential crisis that affects every corner of the planet. The melting of polar ice caps causes sea levels to rise, putting coastal communities at risk of flooding. Extreme weather events like heat waves, hurricanes, floods and droughts are becoming more frequent and severe. Entire ecosystems, homes to countless plants and animals, are collapsing as temperature rises and natural balances are disrupted. These changes are catastrophic and could have devastating effects on life as we know it. However, despite how serious and frightening climate change is, it unfolds gradually over many years and decades. Scientists around the world carefully track and map its progress using data from satellite weather stations and ocean sensors. This scientific knowledge forms the basis for government and policymakers to discuss, negotiate and plan responses. Over time, new technologies and solutions are developed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, produce cleaner energy, and adapt to changing environments. Although difficult, addressing climate change depends on a shared understanding of the facts and a general level of trust between experts, government, and the public. This trust and shared understanding are crucial because climate change requires global cooperation. No single country can solve this problem alone, so nations must work together, share information openly, and commit to common goals. This cooperation approach assumes that people accept basic scientific truths and trust their institutions responsible for leading action. In sharp contrast, social media represents a very different kind of threat, one that is fast-moving and unpredictable. Instead of building trust and shared knowledge, social media platforms often tear them apart. They spread misinformation and falsehoods, encourage extreme opinions, and foster division among people, rather than bringing communities together to face common challenges. Social media can turn them against each other, creating tribes that are suspicious or hostile to anyone outside of their group. When the messenger is broken or unreliable, the entire communication process suffers. If people do not trust the news they receive or the experts delivering it, they may ignore or reject important warnings about climate change. This makes it incredibly difficult to build the collective we need to take meaningful action. Without trust, or even the clearest messages about the urgency of climate change can be lost or dismissed as lies. In short, while climate change itself is a slow-moving but deadly crisis that demands long-term coordinated efforts, the collapse of trust caused by social media is a rapid and dangerous problem in its own right. It undermines society's ability to understand and respond to climate change, making it harder to act in time and increase the risk of severe consequences for everyone. In reality, social media doesn't merely compete with the problem of climate change, it makes every threat we face much worse. By breaking up any sense of agreement or shared understanding among people, social media slows down the flow of important information. This division makes it harder to secure the funding needed for scientific research, delays the passing of crucial policies, and increases the speed of denial and doubt about urgent issues, including climate change. When people do not agree on fact, it becomes almost impossible to take action. Social media's widespread campaigns of misinformation do more harm than just confusing debates about the environment. They actively undermine public health efforts by spreading false information about vaccines and diseases, which can lead to more illness and death. They also destabilise democratic processes by spreading false or misleading information during elections, making it harder for people to trust their government and vote knowledgeably. At the same time, social media distracts the public and leaders from urgent global problems that require immediate attention, such as climate change, poverty, and conflict. In a world divided by misinformation and distrust, it becomes nearly impossible to carry out the larger scale projects needed to protect the planet, building wind turbines, creating laws to protect harmful emissions, and investing in green infrastructure. All of these require cooperation and trust between governments, businesses, and communities. When people are divided and distrustful, these efforts slow down or stall entirely. Therefore, our greatest challenge today is not only the warming planet itself, but also the broken communication channels that should bring us together to solve this problem. Without clear and honest communication, it is difficult to unite people around shared goals or inspire the collective action needed to address the climate crisis effectively. We are standing at a crucial moment in history, a crossroads that will shape the future of our societies, our planet, and generations to come. One path leads us further into digital chaos, where the harmful effects of unregulated social media continues to grow. On this path, we see the spread of dangerous ideologies that can fuel acts of violence, even genocide, and we see the rise of hatred towards women and marginalised groups, the breakdown of social trust, and increasing division between communities, countries, and cultures. This same path leads to deadlock in global efforts to tackle climate change, where no agreement can be reached and no meaningful action can be taken because people no longer share the same facts or believe in the same reality. The other path offers hope, but only if we are willing to act boldly and responsibly. It calls for holding powerful tech companies accountable for the harmful effects their platforms have on society. It means putting in place strong and effective regulations that set clear rules for how social media operates, especially when it comes to spreading false or harmful content. It requires investing in media literacy education so that people of all ages can learn how to recognise misinformation, think critically about what they see online, and make informed choices. Above all, it demands a renewed commitment to truth, valuing facts, science, and honest dialogue as the foundation of any healthy society. If we do not confront the toxic power of social media now, we risk undermining every serious effort to address climate change and every other major crisis facing the world. The longer we ignore the damage caused by these platforms, the harder it will be to solve problems that demand global cooperation and shared understanding. Climate action, public health, democracy, and peace all depend on our ability to communicate clearly, trust one another, and work towards a common goal. The time to act is not in the future, it is right now. We must begin the work of rebuilding our information ecosystems, the networks of communication, trust, and truth that help societies function and thrive. If we fail to do so, these systems may collapse completely, and with them, we risk losing not just the ability to face today's crises, but the very future we will share. Thank you for watching. If this video helped you see the connection between social media and criminology, and the urgent need for responsible digital behaviour, please like and subscribe and share this with others. We're committed to unpacking how digital platforms impact social order, community trust, and criminal behaviour in the modern world. Let us know in the comments, how do you think society should respond to online extremism and misinformation? And for more insights on social change, digital crime prevention, and the future of online communities, please check out my other videos. Thanks for watching.